So, here we go.
He was filled with childish frustrations and complexes. The police are searching for James Thomas.
Hello. You're listening to Midnight Movie Gang. It is currently 5:19 p.m. Night Movie Gang. And for those of you just tuning in, if this is your first episode, this is a show where we talk about movies, primarily kind of cult classics, horror, sci-fi, the kind of like midnight, like you're cozying up late at night on a weird TV channel and, just see a weird movie comes across. I'd call this movie has thriller elements.
Yeah, I'd say so.
That we're talking about today, definitely a thriller. Today we're talking about the movie Challengers. By the way, my name is LC. My pronouns are he, they, and I'm here with Courtney.
They, them.
Yes. And today we're talking about the movie Challengers. Challengers is a 2024 romantic sports drama film directed by Luca. Oh God, I should have. I think it's Guadagnino. I think that G is silent. Guadagnino. Written by Justin Kurtzix.
Damn, you really should have practiced.
I really should have. And stars Zendaya, most notably. She's the headliner. Her face is the poster.
As it should be.
Like, this is the main poster for the movie. Is like just her fit. People at home, it's like her face filling the screen with these like sunglasses, and she's looking at her two white boys.
Though I will say they did lighten her up a lot for that poster.
100%. Yeah, she's definitely darker. I also feel like like her character, it might have been something they played in the movie, but like I feel like she looked lighter when she was older.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that. Starring Zendaya, Josh O'Connor, and Mike Feist. We watched it relatively recently. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about what we're drinking. It's still summertime, so hot tea is not necessarily the vibe. You're drinking out of like a mug.
Yeah.
So that's more the vibe. We're drinking cheer wine.
Yep.
Southern soda. Tastes like Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, we visited my mom, and she lives in North Carolina.
Cheer wine's real good. We're addicted to it.
Yeah.
I really want to make cheer wine float soon.
Yeah, we should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's basically, before we get into the actual movie itself, something that I definitely want to talk about and is the marketing of this movie.
Yes.
And how we were both very much fooled, and I feel like a lot of people who went and saw this movie were very fooled by the marketing. Do you remember the first time we saw the trailer for this movie?
I think we saw the trailer for the first time in before another movie at the theaters.
Mm-hmm. And we both thought it looked like shit.
Yeah, I was like, so initially it seemed like the movie was gonna be about like, oh, look at how great these white boys play tennis, and like I just expected the movie to be really misogynistic
and the like Zendaya sex movie.
Yeah. And so and the marketing really led you there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like not thrilled about seeing this movie. We didn't see it in theaters. We saw it at home a couple days ago. Mm-hmm. And it was so good.
It was so ridiculously fantastic. And before we get into it, we're going to have a full spoiler discussion because I don't think this movie's possible. It's not possible to talk about this movie without spoiling it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this movie is very much not what it was sold. Like it is sold as kind of like a very hetero, like 50 Shades of Tennis is what I got from the trailer. Like a very like straight focus. But no, this movie is so gay.
Yeah.
And it is fully a part of this like new wave of these kind of movies where like it's like we've talked about it, where it's like drama, suspense, mm-hmm. like very adult films and adult stories that we've seen some of before. I think this movie is more unique than a lot of them, but with like I put in like Love Lies Bleeding and
Saltburn.
Saltburn was like probably the biggest one I got to in this movie. But just like these queer stories that we've seen like white men be in these roles and be in these genres, but we've just never seen like queer characters in such a way. In particular because the characters in the movie, their queerness is not like the subject of it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's something that we like talk about, like it's just like, hey, there are gay people or bi people in this movie, but I think art and I think all the characters in this movie are bi specifically, but that's everything. But like and like it's not about that. It's just like, hey, like they're gay people and they're doing shit.
Yeah, and
it's really cool.
I've said to you a lot before that like I felt like I didn't like dramas before we watched Saltburn. Saltburn was huge for me, where I was like, before seeing that movie, I was like, oh, like I just like don't like dramas. Like I don't think I like that genre, but I just don't like dramas about white men because I just don't give a fuck is the thing. And so most dramas are about white men for white men, and a lot of the time dramas that center white men also have some level of like women suffering in them. Like there's a lot of like crimes against women in dramas that I just like don't find enjoyable to watch. So it's not really that I like don't like dramas. I just don't like dramas that aren't made for me. Like I'm happy to see more movies with representation made for and by people like me, and just queer people in general, and also people of color, of course, like being in roles where they traditionally have not been in media. And it just makes the stories that you can write much more interesting. Like this movie has a ton of like sexual tension between all of the characters, and that's just more interesting than just like a heterosexual story. Like it's just, there are more options when you write stories about queer people.
It is a true love triangle more than like a lot of movies.
It's not like Edward and Jacob and Bella being like, now I love Twilight, but like it's not like, oh, like we're both after her. It's like, well, there's her and there's us and there's you and there's like more to it than just like, but I want her. No, I want her.
Exactly. Like when the trailer for this movie really did it made me think that like, oh, it's just going to be there fighting for Zendaya or whatever.
Which is not interesting. We've done it before. I don't care. Like I don't care to see a sport movie about like, let's just fight over this woman and like treat her like she's property and one of us can win her.
Yeah, that's very much not, I guess. Technically, I think there is elements of that in this movie, but there's just so many more layers and like so many more motivations that go way beyond that, and it's just really refreshing to see a movie like this smart and this mature and with like these complicated characters and so human. Like, so this director, Luca Guadagnino, I believe that's how it's pronounced. Leave the G is silent. Also directed Call Me By Your Name.
Yeah.
A movie we've talked, which watching this made me want to rewatch that. And I know there's issues like with the age of certain characters, but that's like another queer movie where like I remember something that I found cool about that movie when I saw it was that like, and I'm going to repeat this statement just because this is something I just really enjoy about these kind of films. The fact that the characters are gay, the fact that the characters in Call Me By Your Name are both male is like, you could change the genders and sexes of either character and it wouldn't change the story of that movie. And as far as like, it's not really the focus, and there's like an element of like this kind of like normalization of like seeing queer people just doing normal human things that I really appreciate how this director is able to capture that. And also just with the sex in general, there isn't a whole lot of like actual sex in this movie, like sex scenes, but they just do a very good job at like building sexual tension. Yeah. Like in just the way that it's shot and like the angles that like just the framing and like the way the characters are interacting with each other and just how they eat churros. Yeah. You know, seeing a lot about them churros. But yeah.
It reminded me of Saltburn in that way, that where there were a lot of like little moments that were like building up sexual tension. Like in Saltburn. Spoiler alert. Saltburn.
Saltburn. Go check out our Saltburn episode.
Yeah. But like in Saltburn, like I can't remember their characters' names, but Barry Keoghan, Oliver, and Jacob Elordi.
Felix.
Yes. Oliver and Felix don't actually have sex in that movie, but like it's there.
Mm-hmm. There's a deleted scene where they kiss, apparently.
I want to see that.
When's the Saltburn Blu-ray's got to come soon? Damn
Yeah,
it.
I want the Schneider cut.
Come on,
of
Emerald.
Saltburn.
Emerald Fennell, give me the extended cut.
Yeah.
Salt and pepper burn. All of it.
I think you should go through the plot.
Yes. So yeah, let's start going through the plot. So this movie is told in a non-linear way. In this movie, we kind of cut back and forth throughout the timelines, but or basically, I just want to say like how this where we kind of start in this movie, and then we'll just kind of go through the plot as like it is chronologically, kind of what happens. So basically, the opening of this movie, the first minutes, we kind of see Art and Patrick, these two white boys at the beginning, Art and Patrick, kind of getting ready for this match.
Yeah.
And we kind of get a little bit of life with Art first. Like Art and Zendaya, like we're already starting and they're already married. They have a daughter together. You see them training. You see her coaching him at tennis. We knew a little bit just from the trailer of the movie that like, okay, like she had her injury and like, you know, now that they're married, it's like, okay, she's coaching him.
Yeah, and when they are first introduced, like it pans to her knee scar. Like where she had surgery and stuff, so it's like clear that she had an injury. Yeah.
And there's a lot of like efficient storytelling right up front. And right away this movie is doing something really interesting where it's like you can tell that the relationship here is like Art is doing this, being this tennis champ for her.
Yeah.
And how like it's really,
she's like analyzing she's like rewatching his matches and like giving him feedback and shit. Like she's like obsessed with his performance.
Yeah, like literally being his coach, his Cobra Kai sensei.
Yeah, and like immediately from the start you can see that's like, I mean, that's obviously going to be a toxic relationship when your spouse is like the one in charge of your career and is like managing you, and there is no on and off switch as far as like this is work time versus this is home time. Like it's all work time.
A part of it kind of made me think of like, I don't think I've ever seen a movie where where I've necessarily seen this in like a in like a couple, but I feel like I've seen in real life and in movies like with parents.
Yeah.
As far as like parents with their children, like being coaches to their kids.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, I think about like Joe Jackson, like, you know, like just you got to train best as possible. But yeah, no, really interesting perspective we get kind of with Art, and we also kind of see that like Art doesn't have his heart in it necessarily.
Yeah.
From the beginning, but
he's like desperate.
Yeah. But we get more to that later. But yeah, then we get caught up with Patrick, and Patrick ain't doing good at the start.
Yeah.
Of like where we see him, how we see him ended up. He's like basically living in his car. He's trying to sell. I think he's trying to sell his trophies or like his like prized racket or whatever.
Yeah.
And another thing is like he's at this point what we know is that like he's kind of like in a lower league of tennis player. Like he's a pro, but he's not playing in like whatever the top level is.
Yeah, he's on like the lower level of it.
Yeah. Like I really like the scene it like establishes like he's at the hotel. It's like a cheap kind of hotel motel type deal. And he's trying to sell his racket, and he's basically like, listen, this tennis tournament tomorrow, I get $400 just for entering, so I can give you my hotel money tomorrow, you know.
Yeah,
like,
and she's like, no.
And also just like, I don't know who you are.
Right.
You know. But yeah, no, and then he sleeps in his car at the country club that he's gonna be at, and I think a security guard or like the manager of the club, like knocks on his windows like, you can't sleep here, and he's like, no, I'm playing. He's like, oh, okay. You're early. But yeah, no, and Patrick is from the beginning of this movie, I automatically felt the most sympathetic for Patrick.
Yeah.
And I feel like who I cared about and like who I felt the kind of the most sorry for, like who was the villain, shifted a lot. But at first, I was mostly on Patrick's side.
Yeah.
Just because I don't like seeing people struggling.
Yeah. Yeah, he was definitely sympathetic from that point of view of like, oh, like I know what it's like to be poor.
Mm-hmm.
Like whenever there's a poor character, it's like, okay, well, that one.
It's also heavily implied that he has a drug problem at the beginning of this too. Like I think the only solid thing they show us is like I think you see like heroin. What's that called? Like the syringe.
Oh yeah.
Scar.
Yeah, like the like the wounds, basically.
Yeah, like you just see that like he's addicted to, he's injecting something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's not doing good. But basically, yeah, we get to them starting, like basically both getting to this starting up this match, and then we flash back in time to the beginning, and from this point on, we'll mainly talk about the movie as it is, like linearly. 2006 is the earliest point, and Patrick Zweig and Art Donaldson win the boys' junior doubles title at the U.S. Open.
And they're best buddies.
They're best buds and totally not gay.
Yeah, they are so... When they win the match, they, like, jump on top of each other. Like, they are... Like, it is, like, the way... It's like the way that you and I celebrate something, and we are romantically involved.
Indeed.
So, we are, in fact, engaged to be married. So...
Yes, indeed.
I feel like... From the beginning... They are more than friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Like, they are more intimate than two straight male friends in the world typically are.
Right.
And also, it's not just in like them embracing at the beginning. It's also how they talk to each other as well. Like,
they're very flirty.
Yeah, they flirt with each other throughout it 100%. We kind of skip next to I forget after that. I think after that they're at a dinner party. Or I think actually they see Tashi play for a minute or something, and then they're at like a party, and Tashi's there, but so Zendaya's
it's her party.
Yeah.
So they go and see her play, and Patrick is like, "You've never seen her play, like you don't understand," because Art is like, "Oh, she can't be that good," basically, and Patrick's like, "No, like you need to watch her play," and so they go see her play, and she's incredible.
Yeah.
And then that night they go to her party. At her, like, it's like a party put on for her by sponsors, and they meet her there, and they're both flirting with her.
Yeah, they both like try to
slide into her DMs,
come on to her, and but just people know Zendaya's character Tashi is like the next up and coming tennis star.
Yeah,
like,
she's like already professional.
Yeah, like Serena Williams, Al Gore, and the characters are all like 16, 17 at this point. And I do want to say this now. They did a great job at...
I think they're 18 because she's about to commit to Stanford.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, they're at the end of high school, all of them. But they do a great job at, like, aging these characters up, kind of like while we're jumping around in time.
That's true.
Like, I pretty much buy all of them when they're teens, and then when they're all kind of, like, in their 30s-ish.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing about when they meet Tashi is that they're both trying to get her attention, and she... tells them that she'll give her phone number to like the one who wins the next day at like the next match. And so already she's like being like, okay, well, you gotta earn it though, like you gotta win me.
Exactly. You know, just
and
like
she's orchestrating it though. It's not them orchestrating it, it's her orchestrating
100%. She's playing them like from the jump, and like,
and I love it.
Yeah. And then basically, yeah, they're flirting like down by the water. It's a really pretty scene. And basically they invite her to hang out in their bedroom. They invite her to hang out in their hotel room, Art and Patrick, and they're both sitting there naked, like basic, like sitting really close to each other on the same bed.
Yep.
And they don't think that she's gonna show up. And then there's a nice little moment of levity, like when she does knock on the door, you just hear them like cleaning as fast as they can.
Yeah, they're like trying to like make it not look like a man's hotel room,
a boy room, and they open the door and they're like, "Hey."
Yeah.
And then we get honestly probably like the scene where I feel like they're the nicest to each other, where they're just kind of like getting a little drunk and hanging out.
Yeah.
Like, and they're just talking about like Zendaya. We get some good information on like how long Art and Patrick have known each other. They've been like, they were roommates and they've been best friends at like private boarding schools since they were 12 years old.
Right, which establishes that they both come from rich families and she does not.
Yeah.
Which I think was important for her character.
Yeah. No, we learn a lot. The whole element of like privilege and like it being an additional thing of like she had to sacrifice so much and work so much harder to get where she did before her injury. Yeah. That, you know, it's just all that more painful, like, for her when, like, she can't accomplish what she does, like, you know, what's at her core. We learn a bit about three of them in this scene. And then there's the scene where we talk about, I forget, is it, like, she asks if they've ever had sex or, like, ever done anything sexual with each other. And they tell this, Patrick tells a story that Art is not comfortable with at all. Like Patrick in general, it seems like is so much more open with his sexuality throughout this movie.
Yeah.
In general, like talking about sex, but also just like being visibly queer as well.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You got more? Yeah. It tells a story about basically how he taught Art how to masturbate.
Yeah.
When they were
in boarding school together.
When they were in the boarding school. And I want to ask you this question because I've been watching a lot of videos and like reading a bunch of like stuff and reviews of this movie. Do you think that was their only sexual encounter they had before this point? You don't think so?
No.
You think? Yeah. No, like a lot of people think that like they have had sex and like they've had a lot more actual sexual encounters before.
I think that telling that story was like a way to like test the waters. Because it's a story that I feel like you could tell where it's like it's kind of on the line where if someone wasn't gonna be okay with what you're telling them, you could just be like, oh, it was just kid shit.
Yeah, but we're not.
It was just kid stuff. Like it was just kid stuff. We just didn't it was kid stuff.
We didn't know.
And so I feel like that was more of like a test the waters kind of story, especially because I think that if Patrick had shared anything deeper, Art would have been like really upset.
Yeah, no, Art would have been definitely lashed out. But yeah, and then they all start kind of making out,
and like they're like taking turns making out with Tashi at first, and then she pushes them together, and then she leans back and like watches them, and it's such a good moment.
Yeah,
it's such a good moment because it's like she's literally orchestrating it and like watching it happen right in front of her, and then she's like, "Hey," and they like are like, "Oh."
They kind of snap out of it like they were in a daze.
Yeah.
With how much they were enjoying it. And yeah, it is such a good because the trailer shot, that's like a big trailer shot
is her lean back.
And it seemed in the trailer it implies that like one of them's gonna hop on her or like they're gonna
it implies that like okay, well a man is going to then be on her.
Exactly.
Because in the trailer they don't show the scene right before where the two men are kissing. And when we were watching this movie and that scene played out, I was like, "Oh, like they got us with that trailer." Like they knew what they were doing just using the Zendaya lean back scene and not using the full scene in the trailer. And I just know that like so many straight men must have been so fucking pissed about this movie.
Do you think that the way that this movie was marketed was like, because I kind of see, I'm of one of two minds of it. Is it like, do you think that the studio was trying to subvert, like, were they trying to be smart and they're like, okay, we're gonna make it seem like it's this kind of movie, but then we're gonna show that it's so much smarter than that? Or do you think they're like, oh, we have this super gay movie, no one's gonna want to show up to it, so let's just make it look like it's not a gay movie?
I think it could be a little of both. Because I think that it's hard for movies right now to... I mean, I think it's hard for a lot of things right now to be marketed as, like... I mean, it's not fair to just label everything that has queer characters as, like, oh, this is, like, a queer movie. Because, like, queer people are capable of lots of things. It's not, like, being queer isn't the only part of that. And so, like, saying that... like, oh, like marketing it as like this is a queer movie for queers is like really derivative because like it's not though. It's like a movie about people who are queer, and like people who are queer are not like, they're more than just queer people. They have full lives, they have passions, they have like careers, they have like it, and so I think that part of it is like, well, we don't want to market it this way because then like the turnout will be less, first of all, because like, you know, the straights get pissed about things like this, but then also it doesn't have to be marketed as like, I don't know, like in movies for straight people, it's not like, hey, just so you know, everyone in here is straight, you know, so it's like, it feels weird to
just
have
in case.
Right. It like, so I don't feel like media about gay people should have to be like, by the way, this one's queer.
But yeah, sorry, what were we getting into with the plot? So basically, yeah, so she tricks them and then she tells them like, yeah, I'll give my number to whoever wins the tennis match tomorrow. And then Patrick slaps Art's boner.
Yep.
And it's like another little like, ooh, like a nice like cherry on top of the end of that scene. But yeah, so then...
Oh, and a big part of that scene when Tashi and Art and Patrick are talking is that Tashi is talking about how she's committed to Stanford. And it's like part of her plan for her career. She's going to play tennis at the college level and then go pro because it's like she wants to be a more well-rounded person and like have other talents and have other knowledge besides just tennis. And it's like a whole, like, it's her strategy for her career because it looks good to like go to college, but then it also like she just wants to do that. And Patrick has a lot of shit to say about that, where he's just like, well, you're wasting your time. You could just go pro now. Like, why wouldn't you just go pro right now? And she's just like, that's just not my plan. Yeah. And he like kind of basically talks shit about the idea of her going to college. But her and Art end up at the same, they both go to Stanford because Art also was committing to Stanford for tennis. And so I think part of that is like a jealousy moment where like, I mean, we don't have any indication that Patrick like applied or anything, but he's got that energy that someone who didn't get in has. You know, where they're like, well, why do I need to go there anyway? Yeah,
like, fuck them. They don't want me. Who cares? Yeah. Patrick also just seems like the kind of person who just would flunk out of school. Like a rich kid who would flunk out of school like a semester in type deal.
Because he's just got no, like, commitment to anything.
Yeah. And, like, another thing, too, is, like, he doesn't understand... Like, Patrick has no ability to, like, see the bigger picture. Yeah. Really, is what it is. Because, like, Zendaya's goals at this... Pretty much at this point in the movie is like she loves tennis and wants to play tennis, but it is she wants to make a bigger impact.
Well, and like, she wants to be like, she wants her career to start out well. And she knows like from a marketing perspective that like going to college is good for like will look good. And also Tashi actually, like, I'm assuming, they don't tell us directly, right? But, like, I'm assuming she got, like, full ride to Stanford for tennis. Yeah. And knowing that she's not rich like Art and Patrick, like, that's huge. Like, she has this opportunity to go to school at this, like, really prestigious college and then play tennis there and then continue her professional career. And like that's a sweet deal. Like why would you not take a sweet deal? But I think Patrick can't understand that because like shit's just handed to his ass. Like he doesn't have to work for anything. Exactly. So he's like, well, why would you waste your time? But it's not a waste of time for her.
Yeah, he really doesn't appreciate the value.
And I think also it's a huge point of contention later between Patrick and Tashi when she is injured at the collegiate level and then never gets to be pro, where she's like, oh, well, he was right. And so there's like this initial, like there's another level of tension, I think, between the two of them where he's just like, see, shouldn't have gone to college. And like,
yeah, it's kind of like another thing that semi draws her back to him, or like part of what's drawing her to him later on in their lives. But yeah, no, so Patrick wins that game, and so Tashi starts dating Patrick, like long distance, and so
you forgot the other part.
What did I forgot? The tick.
Yeah, because that's important for later.
The tick is important. Yeah, so basically, like, yeah, Patrick wins the match. And later signals to Art that he had sex with Tashi by placing the ball in the neck of his racket prior to serving a tick. He points out that Art has a tick. Yeah. Which is another
serves.
Yeah. Which is another like point of showing that Patrick is the better tennis player than Art. Yeah. You know, because like that's something where it's like, you know, you have a tell, and how obvious it is to Patrick. But yeah, that comes back later in a big way. So. Yeah, so Patrick and Tashi are dating while at Stanford.
While Tashi and Art are at Stanford, but Patrick and Tashi are dating.
Yes, and Patrick comes to visit off of his tennis tour, whatever he's doing. He's
because he's pro.
Yeah, he went pro right away. Which at this point, we kind of, I think from Tashi's feedback, like he's doing kind of mediocre. Yeah. Like he's a good player, but like he could be doing better.
Yeah, because she's like, I know how you could be better. And he's like, well, I don't need that from you, basically. And like, I'm not here for you to tell me how to be better at tennis.
Exactly. And I feel like at this point, we already see that Art is kind of, not Art, Patrick is kind of like, he kind of starting to look a little shitty. when he comes to visit. Like, he just looks, I don't know, like he hasn't showered enough.
Yeah,
He's
it's clear
partying.
it's clear that he just like doesn't really have his shit together, and also his masculinity is insanely threatened by Tashi saying anything about his performance. Like, Tashi's like, I know how you could be better, and Patrick's like, I don't want to hear it from you, basically, and like shits on her for doing the college tennis stuff again, which like whatever. But it's clear that from that point, like, what Tashi wants is to like be with someone who gets tennis the way she does, which no one does. Like, you just can't find someone who loves it like she does. But then also she wants to be able to like have those conversations and be like, I know how to make you better. Like, do you want me to tell you how to be better? And have the other person be receptive to that. And he's just not. Like, he doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah, 100%. He just doesn't have the capacity. I wanted to talk real quick about the fact that he visits Art first, and the way he pulls up to the tennis court and like chases him around the tennis court.
Yeah.
And it's real, like they're so excited to see each other. And then we get the churro scene, where basically they get a little lunch together, and they're just real close in this cafeteria, and basically Art is like basically telling, what does he say to Pat? He basically says that like Tashi doesn't love him, and is like trying to start a little bit of a divide between Patrick and Tashi.
Yeah, and he's like, well, I'm here at Stanford with her, and you're not.
Yeah. And they both, and that's kind of like really when the conflict of like both of them wanting to be with Tashi's like starts. And
realistically, they all just want to be with all three of them. All three of them want to be together.
Exactly, they want to fuck. And there's this thing where it's like, it's not just with with Art. It's not just him being, what's the word? It's not just him being jealous of Patrick with being with Tashi. He's also jealous of Tashi.
Yeah.
In terms of like being able to like be intimate with, because Art is just so much more closed off than Patrick in like every way. Like, his physical presence is always smaller. Like, Patrick is always the one that like advances physically, and he's the one that's like over him. And it's clear that like Art wants to be able to be like open and intimate with Patrick in the way that like Tashi and Patrick are.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we get the scene that you're talking about where like Tashi and Patrick are making out, about to have sex. And he doesn't want to talk about tennis anymore.
Yeah.
Like he's tired. And she immediately is just like, well, I'm leaving. And she's like, starts to get dressed up. Yeah, got to get ready for a match.
Right.
You know? And we see in this scene that they start shit talking to each other about like how, you know, Tashi is basically saying to Patrick, like, oh, you can't get by on, you know, natural talent alone.
Right. You have to actually like put some work into what you're doing. Exactly.
And, you know, Patrick kind of comes back at the opposite energy. It's like, oh, like there's more to life than, you know, like just tennis. Like, you know, if you're good, you're good. If you're not. But yeah, and then the injury happens during the game. Oh, actually, wait. Another important scene before that is when Art and Tashi have lunch in the court. And and basically Art insinuates that Patrick isn't taking his relationship with Tashi seriously, and once again trying to like start that divide. And that scene actually a little bit kind of confused me, and this might just be my guy brain as far as like what's going on there. Like, she gets really pissed at Art for insinuating that.
Yeah.
And basically like she says something along the lines like, why do you care that I love him, or like, what does it matter if I love him or not? Or something like that. Yeah. You know, because she really loves tennis.
Yeah, because at no point does she ever say that she loves either one of them, because she doesn't. She just loves tennis, which is fair.
And she also...
It's fair to love tennis.
Yeah. And she also does love pitting them against each other.
Yeah.
Like, she does really... No matter...
Well, because I think from her point of view, pitting them against each other makes it so that one of them will be better. Like it like pushes them to try better.
In a weird way, literally just in this moment, I'm seeing this allegory. It's like Whiplash. It's like Tashi is J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
And both these white boys are Miles Teller.
Yeah.
And she's just like pushing them to like their ultimate limit, but just using their.
But it's gay, so it's interesting. Once again, a movie I hate, Whiplash.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing going on. It's just men being like, let me fabricate some pain.
Exactly. She uses the pain of their unrequited love for each other.
Yeah.
That's really.
But yeah, Tashi during a match tears her ACL, which is really devastating. And the scene of her injury is really cool because like there's like the frame where it just shows her knee and then her knee goes like, and it's like really, it's like a horror scene. It honestly kind of reminded me of like Evil Dead, like because it like jumped from the like whole shot of her like whole body to like just her knee and then back to her falling.
Yeah,
it was like very like, I don't know, it felt like a horror movie. It was very cool.
The visuals and the camera work and like the framing of this movie is so good.
Yeah, it really is, and
really interesting. And like especially during later on as the movie kind of gets more intense, and especially during the scenes where we cut back to the main tennis match between Art and Patrick, like as it gets more intense, the camera work gets more intense. Yeah. Like I love this. The scene later on in the movie during the match where we're just switching between Art and Patrick's POV. Yeah. Like they're looking at each other and like we're just flipping between that. It's just so good.
But yeah, she tears her ACL and she's like screaming on the court because like she's in pain, but also because she knows it's over. Mm-hmm. And I kind of liked that the movie didn't take us through any of her, like didn't take us through her surgery, her recovery, any of that, because we know, we know that like her career was then over. Like her at that point, like her life like ended. Like she lost everything that was important to her.
Mm-hmm. There's only one scene of that we get when she's practicing with Art. Yeah. And like she's like, come on, just like give it me all you got. And he's like, I'm not. He's like, I am. You know. Yeah. You know, she
pushes herself too far.
She starts crying, and like Art comes over to try to comfort her. But yeah, no. So then. There's a little bit of a time skip, and I believe at this point, so Tashi reconnects with Art, and I think they say at this point that Tashi has been coached.
Oh, you forgot the part about how she was pissed off at Patrick, because Patrick didn't come to that match.
Exactly.
Yeah, Patrick didn't come to the match where she hurt herself, and then she is really mad and is like, Patrick, get the fuck away from me, basically, and Art chooses her side over Patrick's side. Yeah. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think at this point they're in a diner, and it's a really cute aesthetic diner. And the food's definitely really good there. And I think at this point they say that Tashi has been teaching, just coaching women at tennis, like I think in a college program or something. Yeah. And Art's pro, but he's like medium pro. He's like, you know. Yeah. But yeah, they start dating, they get married, we get a big skip where like, they have a daughter together, and I remember I've seen in a couple of reviews that people thought that the daughter character was unnecessary because she really, like, we never really got a perspective like from the daughter.
I mean, I think she's just there as like a product of how long it's been, kind of. Yeah. Like we see how long it's been since we last caught up with them, because like it's just like a marker of age. And also there's a couple moments where like the daughter wants her parents, but her parents are busy with tennis shit, and it's like, okay, it's like it just reaffirms how much like Tashi is like only focused on one thing. You didn't mention when Tashi and Patrick have a one night stand.
Yeah, sorry. Well, that happens after she reconnects with Art.
Yeah, they don't get married yet.
Yeah. But yeah, they run into each other in Atlanta, have a one night stand, and I think that's the one we're seeing where
and Art knew it.
Yeah, and Art saw them at breakfast the next morning. But I don't believe ever mentioned it to Tashi. And Patrick is trying to hit on this woman to just like have a place to sleep that night. Yeah, so basically as we kind of get closer to the modern kind of time, Art tells Tashi that he, after like this season of tennis, or like after like the next championship or whatever, that he wants to retire basically. Yeah. And
she's like, no.
Yeah. Well, actually she says like, she says like, you're a grown man, you can do what you want, but you know, and yeah, you can tell that like she's just like really.
Well, she's like, you can quit tennis, but like if you quit tennis, then like we're not together.
Yeah, pretty much. That's different than the scene later where like, that's different from the scene later where she was it like one of the probably the most crushing scene in the movie, like when like it's the day before the big match with Patrick. And he asked her, like, if I lose tomorrow, like, are we still going to be together? And she tells him.
And she's like, no.
Yeah. Like, the most crushing thing. But we'll get to that scene. Yeah, leading up to it, Patrick basically asked Tashi to coach him.
Yeah.
To fight Art. Basically wanted to, like, give, like, he's like, I want to give him the challenge. We need to give him the challenge that like you've been looking for him. And also like he's also doing it because Patrick at this point very much knows that Tashi gets off on seeing them pitted against each other. Like, he's like very aware of like what the deal is, you know. And I love this scene with Zendaya like at first because she's really offended by it because she basically tells him like, you don't have to be doing this. Like, you don't have to be torturing yourself. Like, you can go back to your rich family.
Right, like why are you, like, pretending to be poor by sleeping in your car and shit?
Exactly. Like, I think, you know what that made me think of? Like, you know, like, rich kids who, like, shop at Goodwill because it's, like, aesthetic?
Yes.
Like, the thrift vibe. Like, that was kind of what she was throwing at Patrick.
Yeah, that was, like... That I saw that a lot during undergrad of like rich kids pretending to be poor, and then like you'd get to know these kids, and then like at some point they would say some shit where it would be like, oh, you didn't grow up like I did you? Like, cause the funny thing about rich people, this is a side tangent, but the funny thing about rich people and people who grew up rich, even when they try to lie to you about it, cause like there have been plenty of people that have like tried to lie to me about being poor, like growing up poor. I just feel like you can't hide it for long because you'll eventually say something where I'm like, oh, like, well, we're not on the same level. That's then. Weird. Like, eventually something will come out where they're like, oh yeah, like when I went to Paris when I was in high school, and you're like, huh?
What do you mean $300?
What do you mean? Right, exactly. Like, they'll eventually say some shit where you're like, oh, like you're rich.
Yeah.
Anyway.
This reminds me, another important element here is that basically, as far as like Art wanting to quit tennis, they'd still be very rich. They run a foundation. And,
yeah, like, they are super rich as a couple.
They're super wealthy. They're like celebrities. He does not need to play tennis in order for them to maintain this lifestyle.
Yeah, so it's clear that it's like not about the wealth. Like she literally just like needs a proxy to play tennis through because she couldn't do it herself anymore. And so it wasn't about him at all.
Yeah.
It's literally just about her need to have proximity to playing tennis because she can't do it herself.
Exactly.
And it sucks. It's such like a tragic story from her point of view because like she's better than both of them. Like, and not as, I mean, obviously because she's a woman, she would be playing like against women. Like they wouldn't play against each other, but like she would be like Serena or Venus Williams. Like she would be like the tennis player that everyone knows, but she tore her ACL and now she can't be.
Yeah. So, Tashi eventually agrees to train Patrick. And we get to the final match. And then, like we said, that scene where, basically, Art asks if he wins or loses the next day, like, will she still be with him? And she's honest and says no. And it's such a tragic scene because not Patrick, it's Art. Art is destroyed by it, and he like kind of just starts like breaking down. And you can tell that like she's like disturbed by it too, because I think at the end of the day, she cares about Art, but she doesn't love him.
No, yeah.
Like, and it's this finale where we kind of get like the last bits of the match. You could really feel it because basically, after this scene where Art kind of breaks down and like they start having sex, and he agrees to the terms.
Yeah.
Like, you know, in body language, and it's like very clear to tell. And it's like an insane thing. You see that Zendaya like feels terrible about it.
Yeah, because she doesn't want to have to leave him, but she genuinely feels like she has to.
Yeah.
If he doesn't win.
And the next scene that we get with her and Patrick, they're like in a car. They meet up in a car. She tells Patrick, like, I want you to lose the game tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which is insane to me because it's like is everything about it just so insane. She's like, he needs to feel like he genuinely won. That like he genuinely like he can genuinely satisfy her and give her what she needs is like in her tennis partner, her tennis avatar or whatever. And knowing that she'll like really be dissatisfied. And it's just, and Patrick is like pissed off for Art.
Yeah.
In this scene.
Yeah, he's like,
how the fuck can you do this to him?
Yeah, he's like, he would not accept this if he knew. And also, like, it's interesting because she wants Art to win so bad, but knows that he can't. And that's like really sad that she like doesn't have faith in him to win. Like, I find that really sad. Like, she like doesn't trust that her partner can do it. And so she has to like outsource to this man that she hates, because at this point she hates Patrick. And I think that that's crazy. And also the fact that she just like, she needs him to win so badly, and I think in her mind it's like, well, if he thinks he won this, then maybe his like pro tennis career can get back on track, because he needs like the confidence boost, and then we can be, and then like she's like hopelessly hoping that their relationship can like get back on track and like things can get better from here, even though like they can't. And then like during the actual match, it's like neck and neck between Art and Patrick, and then Patrick starts throwing the match like pretty obviously, like in a way that makes it so that Art seems to realize what's happening. And then the tick comes up again.
Exactly.
And he does Art's tick to like tell him that he slept with Tashi.
And also just like letting, basically not just sleeping with Tashi, but like I feel like he also insinuates at the moment that like she's in on it type of deal. Yeah. Like, she's why I'm throwing this. Right. And at this point it kind of like, it lights a fire under Art's ass basically in that scene, and they start and the rest, and Zendaya can see it too, and like the rest of the match they're both playing with everything they got. Yeah, and then they end up tying, so then they have to do a tie break. And it's really intense, and like they're just getting closer and closer to each other in the court. And there's a scene where like, the camera work starts to get crazy, and there's a scene where we're the ball. Yeah. I liked that. We're like flipping back and forth, and like, yeah, no, it is like really intense. And then basically, as Art lunges for the final shot, he collides with Patrick over the net, and the two embrace. Tashi leaps from her seat and cheers. So when we watched the movie, we were both kind of confused over like who won the game. Looking up, so like Art won. Yeah. But I think the reason why Zendaya cheers and she goes like, you know, oh yeah, is because like she was able to get the tennis match that she wanted. Right. And that was like the whole thing, was that she the whole time she says throughout the movie that like she just wants to see some good fucking tennis. And so she finally saw some good fucking tennis, because they were both like putting their whole ass into it. When before it was like half-hearted shit. And she was before frustrated with Art's career because he was half-assing it, like in his pro career, and he was like being quite fucking mediocre, and she knew that she was never going to be mediocre, so like it was irritating to her that he was. And like, yeah, that was the whole point of her pitting them against each other. The whole movie was to like get some good fucking tennis out of it. And so like I feel like the ending was really, it was nice. It was. Because then you can assume that like the two men reconcile. Yeah, like, you know, they like come into an embrace at the end, and it kind of feels like, oh, like they've kind of accepted their love for each other. Yeah. In that like because I think ultimately that last bit they were playing for them, and they weren't playing over Tashi or whatever. Right. And that was ultimately like what was beautiful about it. Yeah. But yeah, no, like I fucking loved this movie.
I loved it. It had me on the edge of my seat.
Indeed. I want to see more movies like it. So this movie was a moderate financial success on a reported budget of $55 million. It made $94.2 million total. Yeah, no, I think we're gonna get, like, this movie got great reviews. I think we're gonna get more movies like it. I'm excited to see more stuff from this director.
Yeah.
So this director did a HBO Max miniseries called, one second, I gotta find it. That looks really good that I want to watch. Television. We Are Who We Are. It's like Wikipedia's failing me. We Are Who We Are. Coming of age story set in fictional U.S. military base in Italy. The series follows 2 American teenagers. And it's like it's basically, they talk like it's just about these 2 teens that become friends, and like they deal with like their gender identity and like all this stuff. And
That's
like,
cool.
I looked at the trailer and it looks cool. And I guess this is a hard movie to do the prop thing for.
Toshi's sunglasses.
That's
what I want.
They are pretty legendary sunglasses.
Yeah.
I want Patrick's destroyed racket. Oh, but you know what was throughout this whole movie? I guess it must be a common thing in tennis. Whenever the players are mad about how a game's going, they smack their racket against the ground.
I mean, yeah. I like I like how they get like fouls for it. I know it's not called fouls in tennis, but like whatever it is, like they get like penalties.
Yeah.
For being assholes.
Yeah, it's so funny. But Patrick's the only one to actually break his racket.
Yeah.
Which I found interesting.
They're hard to. Have you held a tennis racket? They're hard to break.
They're tough. Yeah.
They're
for
like
sure.
pretty. They look flimsy, but they're not.
Yeah. You can break a badminton racket though.
Yeah.
Those are flimsy. I love badminton though.
Me too. We're gonna have some badminton in our backyard.
Exactly. We're gonna get a badminton net. They're pretty cheap. We'll get a nice one though.
Yeah.
It'll be fancy. I guess. Let's see. Oh, I didn't know if you knew this, but like, so the actors,
they had great fucking chemistry in this movie.
All 3 of them had great chemistry with each other, but I wanted to point out that Mike Faust, who played Art, he's known for, why is it going back to the right page? Mike Fast, he's a Broadway guy. He's like a Broadway musical theater guy.
Gay?
Yeah. And let's see.
One of us for real.
Breakthrough role playing Connor Murphy in the Broadway musical Dear Evan Hansen. But I thought, I was trying to figure out where I recognized him the whole time because like his face looks so familiar, and he was
oh yeah, he's in West Side Story.
Yeah, he's Riff in Spielberg's West Side Story, and I'm like, oh, that makes, and he was great in that movie.
Yeah, he was.
He was the best part of it. So I definitely excited to see more. And speaking of gay movies, quote unquote, he's playing Jack Twist in the theater production of Brokeback Mountain. So, and I think
that's cool.
I want to say that somebody else Lucas Hedges is playing Ennis. He's the I don't know if you remember him, but he's the brother in mid-90s.
No, I don't remember him.
Yeah, but he's a good actor.
Yeah.
Anyway, so prop wise,
I would love to see a theater performance of Brokeback Mountain. Probably make me cry.
Yeah, more than the actual movie.
I mean, the movie made me cry, but
yeah. I wonder what if they're ever gonna make like a video, like production version of like I don't know, because plays are weird to get into. I feel like, are there any other like big play like movie video? Like I think of like Hamilton. Like during COVID, they did like
Mamma Mia, Hairspray, Footloose, Dirty Dancing.
I don't mean,
I was a theater kid in high school.
Yeah, I don't mean like adaptations. I mean like literally they just film the play happening on stage, because that's what Hamilton was.
Well, yes, they have on stage Annie. I'm just naming more. They have on stage versions, but like most theater things that are movies are just like filmed as movies.
Mm-hmm. True.
Like West Side Story.
Makes sense. Okay, I want the new musical version of Brokeback Mountain then.
I don't think it's a musical. I think it's a play.
Oh, okay. I assume the stage.
Musicals are different than plays.
True. I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen a play.
That's fair.
Since all that.
Yeah, it's a play. It's not a musical. That would be a crazy musical. Like just them singing like being persecuted for being gay.
Yeah,
That'd be crazy.
that would be insane. But yeah, no, you've been listening to Midnight Movie Gang. It's currently 6:17 Night Movie Gang. Courtney, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yippee.
People seem to really like our Quiet Place episode.
Cool.
We've gotten good.
I liked it too.
We got good responses from that one, clips from that. It's been popular, so it's great. Yeah, thank you so much for listening, folks. You can follow us at Instagram at Midnight Movie Gang, TikTok, same thing. I'm at Midnight Movie Gang. If you've been listening to the show for a while, or if this is your first episode and you really like it, sign up for our Patreon. It's fun.
Join the Patreon so we can buy more tea.
Join the Patreon so we can buy more tea, get better mics, and keep this show going. Yeah, right. There, you get access to episodes and videos 2 days early. And you also get access to Patreon exclusive monthly movie commentaries. We have only one up right now, and it's Signs. Next month's, the one that's going to drop on August 1st is going to be Cowboys and Aliens, 2011 sci-fi action movie directed by Jon Favreau. Yeehaw and pew pew. Yep, thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Bye.
So, here we go.
He was filled with childish frustrations and complexes which the police are searching for James Thomas, believed to be the lover of Mrs. Williams, and her partner in the horrible murder of Walter. Where's everybody? They're not here. They've all gone. Oh, please tell me where they've gone. Please tell me. Sorry, I don't know. How often do these? Look what I got in here. 3 tickets to Albany on 6 o'clock train tonight. What do you mean 3?
Special agent, special agent.